Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to be talking to an entrepreneur about how he has set up this fabulous business, but along the way, some of the pitfalls that he has discovered. And so please join me in welcoming Yuri Elkaim to our program today. Welcome, Yuri. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Deb. Thanks for having me.
Perfect. I love it. Well, I always like to give the bio and then let our guests tell a little bit about themselves. So Yuri Elkaim is a former pro athlete, leading health expert, New York Times bestselling author, and the founder of Healthpreneur, where he helps health entrepreneurs, coaches, and practitioners start and scale online businesses that create more income and freedom and better results for their clients. So again, Yuri, welcome.
Thanks, Deb. Thank you.
Well, tell us a little bit about how it is that you got to where you are today and discovered that this is your passion in life.
Yeah, so I lost my hair when I was 17, which is why I don't have any hair, to an autoimmune condition called alopecia.
Okay.
And before all that, I had set the goal of playing pro soccer when I was 10 years old. I loved soccer. I thought that I was good. I'm like, I want to be one of those guys. So I was very active and fit in my teenage years to make that happen, but I wasn't healthy. And I realized that when my hair fell out in the space of 6 weeks. So those two, the passion for soccer and kind of like active living, and then this question of like, what's happening here with my hair? How do I figure what's going on and how do I resolve it? Led me into this path of initially kinesiology. I went to this University of Toronto to do that.
Wherever
and then
you
I went
are.
back to school when I was finished for holistic nutrition. So between those two things, that's kind of how it all started. But I played pro soccer for a number of years before that. And I really enjoyed, although I retired early from soccer, I realized that my passion really was for helping other people. And I really enjoyed working with people on their health and transformation goals. And I found a lot of fulfillment out of that. And I did that for 7 years. Although, before all that, when I went to school for nutrition, I started to recognize the fact that my body was just a toxic wasteland. And I wasn't even aware of that for 24 years of my life. But I cleaned up my diet, regrow my hair, kept my head shaved for a long time because that's what it was. And then it was fast forward a couple of years later, got a shot, fell out again, long story, whatever. So that's kind
and now
of
you save money on shampoo.
Yeah, exactly. I actually like it, to be honest. I mean, I can
a lot
go swimming
easier
without having to worry about my wife doesn't even want to get her hair wet in the pool. I'm like, it's great. And there's worse things in life. So I think I had that perspective early on. So it wasn't like the end of the world for me.
As a teenager, it was probably a little rough, but when, later on, it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, because my dad's Moroccan, so I had bushy eyebrows and a lot of hair, and then there was no hair. So that was an interesting contrast, I think, for people to see when like walking down the halls in high school. But that's like the whole, that journey plus my passion for soccer and fitness really got me into wanting to help other people. So I did that for about 7 years, one-on-one, 12, 14 hours a day, burning myself out. And then in 2005, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I need to look at this thing called the internet. And that's where the whole venture into the online world started for me. But I was clueless. I didn't know anything. So from early 2006 to 2009, made poverty line income because I was trying to do everything by myself, and I was selling like fitness programs and nutrition programs online, and I just didn't know what to do. So I was struggling. And then in 2010, I said, maybe you should hire a coach because you don't have all the answers. And I did. Things started to take off, and eventually we built the business to multiple seven figures, helped 500,000 customers around the world. blah, blah, blah. So it was really an amazing journey. Yet that business, we had created a Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
On the outside, a lot of people started coming to me for business advice because they had seen the growth. And I was like, okay. But I also knew that I didn't want anything to do with that business anymore. So I sold it a few years ago, even though I'm still the face of the business in some way. And Healthpreneur, which is the current business I run, was started about 6 years ago because of all the other health professionals who are reaching out for help on the business and marketing front. And I'm like, there's got to be an opportunity here. There's these amazing health professionals, all these people they could help. They just don't know how to bridge the gap because they drop 300 grand to go to school and they don't learn anything about business and marketing. And I'm like, that's crazy. So Healthpreneur was birthed out of that. And now we help health professionals build their dreams online, their businesses that help other people online, so they can have more time and location freedom, and they don't have to burn out in the clinic all day. And that's what we do. So it's been an amazing ride. And, we've helped more than 1,200 clients, generated more than $217 million in their businesses, and helped tens of thousands of people. So it's been great, and it continues to be awesome. So
I love it. I know one of your speaking points is that you have 2 McLarens, which I had to look it up. I mean, I figured it was a car, but I was like, ooh, pretty car.
They're fun. They're fun. And listen, I'm very open about this. I live a very simple life. I live at my house. I spend all my time in my house. I love being in a nice location where I live.
You have 4 sons. Holy cow.
4 boys. Yeah. 4 boys. I need a little bit of space. Obviously, I wasn't traveling during lockdown, so I needed some degree of freedom. And that's where the McLarens came in. They're not a good investment, nor is any car. But
right.
If you can, why not?
And that's the thing, is we all need to remember that it's okay to spoil ourselves.
Totally.
And for some people, that's, an extra dessert. For somebody else, it's a trip. I mean, all these various things. But I am guessing that your sons are thinking, ooh, Dad.
Initially, yes. Now they're like, the novelty has worn off. But I think, I think later in life, it'll serve them in some way, shape, or form. And we always talk about this. I say, guys, listen, the cars don't mean anything.
Right.
None of the stuff matters. It's all nonsense. Right. Let's just be honest. But it's not about that. It's about setting goals in life that challenge you to grow. Right. And for me, it was just the trophy. It wasn't about I need to have this car to be happy. It's I used that as a trophy. I said, that would be awesome to have, because I really enjoy the feeling of driving. And it really forced you to think about what has to be true? How do I grow the business or myself to the level where we can do that no problem? And for me, at least, that was a motivating piece to the puzzle. For other people, maybe not so much, but it's something I talk with my kids about. And the fact that it's don't buy a Lambo or a McLaren or anything if you're leasing it, if you can't afford it. You should be able to buy 5 before you buy 1.
Right.
And just being really real about them, because there's no point in showing off and doing all this nonsense just to look cool if you have nothing to back it up. Right. So yeah.
And what you mentioned in there, though, is how important it is to set those goals.
Yeah.
Maybe it is the goal to have the fancy sports car and all of those things. And I think so many business owners get so caught up in the doing of their everyday business that they forget that they have to have goals. And yes, there are business goals, those are obviously very important too, but many businesses don't even have those. Yeah. And I tell people, it's kind of like you get in the car and you turn on your GPS and you tell it, take me anywhere. You have to have goals in order to be working toward them. Otherwise, you're just kind of spinning your wheels.
Yeah. And it gets to a point where I've realized I've dealt with this, as well as many other friends of mine who built very large businesses, is you get to a point where you plateau and you have everything you want. And then it's massive boredom.
Right.
And that's a very dangerous emotion to feel on a consistent basis. And I really had to do some soul searching, because at a certain point, it's not about the money. It's not about any of that stuff. It's about, number one, I love business. I love working. I could work all day long, even though I don't have to, because I really enjoy creation and serving my clients and the game of the ups and downs. But at the same time, I'm also a very competitive person, and I like challenges. So I'm I like this car. Let's put that up there as something I'm going to work towards.
Right.
Because at the time, there was a little bit of a flat line energy-wise for me in terms of growth within the business itself. And I'm like,
Right.
maybe this will give me the juice to keep going temporarily.
Mm-hmm.
And I noticed that it did. And for some people, you know, we talk a lot about, you know, reconnecting with your why. Like my why is really helping other people. Like I really, truly, genuinely love doing that. And I also realized that that is not viscerally what excites me all the time. If I'm just being very honest,
Right.
like temporarily, I'm going to get excited by having a cool car, but I know that's fleeting. So it's like, well, let's just ride that for a second. But in order to get there, I have to serve and help many more people to make that a reality. So although that's not the real thing that matters, it's kind of the temporary thing to pull me along so that I can serve more people in the process and ultimately get me closer to the bigger reason why I'm doing all this stuff, which is to help more people improve their lives, improve their businesses. And this is just kind of like a little side rocket fuel to keep me going. So,
Right. You know, I always kind of laugh when people, you know, we always have that saying, you know, if you're doing something you love, it's not really work. Yeah. I mean, you know, because especially if you're the business owner, there's parts of what you do that you probably don't love because, you know, invoicing, hiring, firing, sales, I mean, any of those things. And so, but the cool thing is to have a system, you know, people under you, all of those things, so that then you can focus on what you do love and, you know, be able to you know, to go on. And so I love that you've started this business for these incredibly busy, incredibly important people. You know, anyone who is providing health and fitness, I think is very important. And they really do need to be focusing on what they do. Some of them are probably going to love the tinkering of the websites, you know, and all of those various things, just because, you know, that's kind of fun. But they need to be able to focus on what it is that they do. And so it's great that you have this service for them to kind of say, you know what, we know how important it is to do what you're going to do. How can we help?
Yeah, totally. I mean, with that said, a lot of health professionals, I think, almost don't want to do any of the important stuff in their business outside of client care. And I do think that's a bit of a detriment because the reality is you could be the best health professional in the world, but if no one knows you exist, you're limited in terms of what you can do. So a big piece for us is never forgetting that the thing you're delivering, whether it's a product or service, has to be world-class. Like that, you can't, like if you improve your marketing with a crappy product, you just let more people know you've got a crappy product or a crappy service. So like one of the most important things for us when we're looking at bringing on new clients is, do you have expertise whereby you know with 1,000% certainty if someone has this issue, you can help them? Because if that's a no, we're never working with you. Because our whole goal is to amplify you to the world or to whatever segment of the world.
And if you're amplifying average,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, okay, cool. Like that's, and most people come in with that. They're like, yeah, like I've been doing this for a long time and I know I can help them. I'm like, cool. Second piece is you have to learn the marketing because the marketing is the engine of your business. But the thing I think a lot of at least health professionals struggle with is they think that marketing is sales. And it is and it isn't. So marketing is sales at scale. But the thing is, the better you market, the less you have to sell. And for me, marketing is simply amplification of your message. So if you enjoy teaching and spreading your message, that's marketing. The more you do that and the more people see that, the less you have to feel salesy because more people just want to work with you. So when we start to really think about that, it's like, well, actually, that makes more sense. And understanding that if you don't market, then you're always going to be at the mercy of hope and pray. Maybe some people will come into my clinic or work with me, or you outsource to an agency who's going to do a crappy job in a lot of cases because they don't care about your business as much as you do. So I'm a big believer that the business owner needs to have a very dangerous level of expertise in the big areas of the business, marketing, sales, delivery. Doesn't mean that you have to do all of those forever, but you have to understand what's happening because if you're always at the mercy of someone else who may not be as good, you won't even know how to correct it or have the conversation about how to improve it.
And that's where we see people get into trouble when they say, oh, golly, I had no idea that our books were like this, that our finances were like this, because they'd never looked, and because they were focused on whatever. And of course, we see that a lot, obviously, with elite athletes, with actors, people like that, who are focused on what they're doing, and they kind of forget that there's those other things. I remember years ago when I was in college, one of the classes, I was in a cohort program, so we did not pick our classes. We were told, you will take this, this, and this. It's actually kind of interesting. And so one of them was video production. Now, this is long enough ago that it was the studio with 900 lights, buttons, knobs, all of these things on these big boards. And now, stuff is run off of your phone.
Yeah.
But, I was talking to the professor, and I said, I got to tell you, I have no desire to learn any of this. I said, it's just not interesting to me. And wise man that he was, he looked at me and he said, will you ever hire someone to produce videos for you? Well, this is a marketing communications program, so the chances of that were really pretty good, right? Yeah. And so I said, well, yes. And he said, how will you know if they're doing it right or wrong if you know nothing about the process?
Mm-hmm. It's true.
And, and it really did make a big difference. It was like, okay, I need to know, okay, if they say, even if it was just knowing some of the terminology and things like that, it was very important to have that knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, you don't have to be an accountant to understand the numbers of your business.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But you can't use that as an excuse not to know the numbers of your business.
Yeah.
Because you will not be in business very long.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right.
And again, you don't have to be the expert, but the important thing is to hire those experts to do that. I tell people, all the time, I don't need to know how to do open heart surgery. I can hire somebody else to do it.
100%.
Might I try to change my oil after watching YouTube? And then
I still don't know how to do that.
I know, that's why those people are there, because they know what they're doing, especially as complicated as cars are now, right? But it is. You need to know at least some of the basics with and even if it's just who to hire to do that, because it gets rather complicated on some of these things.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's interesting. One of the things that I love about what you do is that you know who your niche is, and it's really pretty small, right? It's and I talk with business owners all the time, and I say, who's your target audience? And they look at me and they smile sweetly and they say, everyone. Which of course means they don't serve anyone, right?
Yeah.
And so, you had a personal reason for working with the niche that you are, but what advice do you give people for them to figure out who they should be working with?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say it like this. It's the most important decision you make in your business. Mm-hmm. So if you get it wrong, your business is screwed.
Right.
Like everything in your business flows from who you choose to serve. Mm-hmm. Like your messaging, your product or service, mm-hmm. It all flows from that. Mm-hmm. So there's two ways that we look at it. One way is we look at what's the problem, and then who's the person with that problem that you want to work with. Mm-hmm. So the problem, again, in the context, this doesn't matter if it's a product or service. The degree to which the problem is severe and persistent, mm-hmm. i.e., a bleeding neck problem, something mm-hmm. someone needs to solve like right away, that is tough to solve mm-hmm. with other solutions or on their own, is going to command a premium price versus something that is like a nice to have that is mm-hmm. once in a while, no big deal. Mm-hmm. So when you're putting something out to the market, so we work in the world of higher priced services, mm-hmm. coaching.
Right.
And the reason for that is because when people pay, they pay attention. And as much mm-hmm. as we'd love to offer free for everyone when it comes to health, that just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking with our clients about, okay, like, well, what is it? What problem are you solving? And, mm-hmm. and I had a conversation with a client last week, and he's like, post-nasal drip.
That's pretty specific.
It's specific. And all right, well, that's specific. That's a great target market. Mm-hmm. Is it? Because I asked him, like, how many paying clients do you have with post-nasal drip? Mm-hmm. And he was like, none. I'm like, can I offer some advice on why that might be? No one cares about paying money to solve post-nasal drip mm-hmm. because it's not severe enough.
Right.
And it's not that persistent where it's like dripping like a waterfall. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, I could just blow my nose, no big deal. They don't think it's that bad. Versus some of our clients who deal with people who have migraines every other day.
And
That
cannot function.
Yeah, like you cannot function. You cannot get out of bed. And markets like that are very, very good problems to go after because people are willing to do something to solve the problem, i.e., I need to change now. I need to fix this. This is unbearable. So you have to identify a problem that people are willing to not just pay for, but motivated to change because they can't deal with that anymore. And that's the first piece of this. And then the second piece is, okay, well, a lot of people could have that problem. Who would you like to work with? Like, who do you have the best track record with? Who brings you the most joy if you want to work with them? Who is most likely to succeed if you were to work with them? So these are questions that get into a bit more of the psychographic of the person. So it could be new moms. It could be former high-level athletes. It could be C-level executives, like whatever it is, but it needs to be somewhat, not in all cases, but the more narrow you define that who, the more they feel your solution is for them, even if your solution is generic, like weight loss. Because if you say I help women lose weight, so does everyone else.
Right. And your market is 50% of the world.
Exactly. But if you say I help moms who have 2 kids between the ages of 0 and 5, which might be a little, it's a bit of a tight whatever, but nonetheless, they feel like you're their expert for them because everyone else is just saying weight loss for women. You're saying weight loss for you specifically. So the messaging flows from that decision and it all becomes more powerful because now when people see the words or the videos or the stuff you put out there, they think to themselves, this person's for me because they understand what I'm going through. And we all want to work with the specialist, not the generalist.
Right. Yeah. I've given this example several times on the program where I was at a networking event and, you go around and you do your 30-second spiel. And this woman sold skincare products. Who's your perfect audience? And she, of course, says everyone because everyone has skin. I mean, that was kind of and we all drew total blanks on who to refer to her. I mean, we couldn't think of anybody with skin. But so I kind of talked to her a little bit and I said, you've got a niche. I said, and she said, but I'm leaving people out. And I said, that's all right. If they still fit, they'll buy from you. And I said, but you need to focus down onto this. And so the next time she comes to the meeting, she says, I sell skincare products for teenage boys with acne.
That's much better.
Every one of us knew a teenage boy with acne. And so then we could refer to her. Now, teenage girls could also use the product, adults, I mean, all these various things. But yeah, when she told us who she was looking for, we could help her find those people.
And that's the key is like you could now place someone in your mind who that would be a good fit for versus everyone. It's so broad. It's overwhelming. And it's so funny you mentioned that, like, I'm going to alienate people if I don't help everyone. It's like, well, you weren't going to help 7 billion people anyways.
Right. Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden you're the master of scale. Like you haven't even made your first sale. Let's focus on let's get the basics dialed in. Right.
Yeah. And, I can't think of a single company that really does market to everyone. Some obviously have much bigger markets, but, companies like Walmart, there's a very specific group that they're marketing to. Starbucks. I mean, my husband has to basically be about to die before he will go into Starbucks. He just likes coffee. He doesn't like fancy coffee. He doesn't like any of that. So, Starbucks is not for him. And, I really can't think of any companies that market to everyone.
Yeah. And this is what people don't understand is that, like, so in Canada, we have Tim Hortons and Starbucks. So Tim Hortons is like Dunkin' Donuts, if you will, of Canada.
Right.
That's a very different person than the person who goes to Starbucks.
Right.
And it's not that Starbucks has to say, you're this type of person. They do so based on the environment they create in their stores, through their branding, through their packaging. And some people don't resonate with that because it's too posh or not posh enough or whatever.
Right.
And there are other people like Tim Hortons, when it's like, if you were to see this, and I don't want to generalize, but it's very true. you go to Tim Hortons and you'll see 10 Harley Davidson bikes parked out front.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I love it.
You'll never see that at Starbucks.
Right.
But what you'll see at Starbucks is 20 guys who went for a bike ride on their $8,000 bicycles on a Sunday morning,
Yes.
having a Starbucks together afterwards.
They're on two wheels, but it's a very different two wheels.
Exactly. And we all associate with certain brands. Sometimes we're not even aware of it, but at some level, it's like I identify with this brand for some reason. And yeah, I mean, like to think that we're going to help everyone is, it's just, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. You know, and by niching down, you're actually able in many cases to raise your price. 100%. Starbucks, another great example. You know, they're selling the frou-frou drinks, which you can get the same frou-frou drink pretty much anywhere. I mean, they call it different things, and but they make it seem fancy because it's venti, right? But
the milkshake.
Yeah. You know, they are able though to charge more because of that whole cachet part.
Yeah, we have a lot of clients that come to us and they'll tell us, what really drew me to you guys, the fact that you only work with health professionals. I'm like,
you get us.
That's part of it. And the reason we do is because I want to. It's not a manipulative play. But the very fact that they say that is part of their decision-making criteria, because they feel like they are going to be understood because they get me, right? As opposed to just a general type of business coaching type of approach. So
yeah, and especially because depending on the healthcare provider, the location, all of those things, there's guidelines and laws that they have to follow. You know, HIPAA is obviously a very big thing, and so knowing those ins and outs, it's just like someone who works with financial planners. They are very specific as to what they can and cannot do. And so if you say, hey, I design websites, or I design websites for executive level financial planners, big difference.
Totally. Yeah. Like to that point with our clients, like we do a lot of Facebook advertising for ourselves as well as our clients. And a big challenge on Facebook, as well as any advertising platform for that matter, is compliance. If you say the wrong things, you're not only getting your ad shut down, you're getting your account shut down. And we know the nuances, right? We've been doing this for so long that we know exactly when something's not compliant, when it is. And we can provide guidance to our clients on what to say, what not to say. And right away, that becomes a great selling feature because most other businesses are not aware of that stuff.
Right.
So again, it goes back to when you know your target market, you can address them. You can address their needs more appropriately, and they feel more understood. If they feel more understood by you, they're more likely going to pay attention to you.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes it's a very simple word, a simple change. I worked for a very large financial services company, and a something and the something are two very different things.
Totally.
And so that was always one of the things, because I was in the communications department. Our salespeople wanted us to be broad and general. And of course, I couldn't put anything out without legal sign off. And I would say, we can say we are a provider or the provider. Of course, we couldn't say the provider because that's too specific. It's in many cases you can, because there's not federal regulations and things like that, but you still want to watch it because you still have to be able to provide that. If somebody tells me they are the best barbecue restaurant in town, they'd better be pretty darn good.
Yeah, and that raises a good point, which is skepticism and believability, which is, I think, in marketing, the number one thing is believability. So if you say, I always laugh when I see people's like bios and like America's #1 personal trainer. I'm like, really? Because I saw 3 other people with the same thing.
Just today I've
says who, right? So whenever you make claims, just be sure you're ready to back this stuff up, because believability in very competitive marketplaces like we all operate in, is at an all-time high, just based on the fact that people have been around long enough to see every marketing message out there. So when we say like the best, the #1, the only, so you better have some proof to back that up. In some way, shape, or form, you have to be differentiated, but believability is a very important piece of marketing for sure.
And I always say the same thing too with the celebrity spokespeople.
Yeah.
And because it's, I always laugh. I'm like, I'm pretty sure Matthew McConaughey doesn't drive a Lincoln. And maybe he does. I mean, it just doesn't seem like he would. And I think, when we, from a marketing perspective, when we look back, if you really look at the celebrity people, I think Michael Jordan really was one of the first really big people that they put out there. I mean, you always had, I mean, even if it's just, the person on the corner that you really like, they can be considered the celebrity spokesperson. But yeah, the influencers are, again, you're thinking, why should, I'm pretty sure that person is never going to do this. So why then would I trust them?
Yeah.
And my favorite one right now is one of the Kardashians that's advertising, or she's the spokesperson for migraine medicine. I don't doubt that she has migraines. I mean, I just, she may not. That doesn't really matter. But my first thought was, really, that's who you picked?
And at some level, we all know there's a certain level of like, we all know the game. How much do they pay you for this? And like all of that stuff, I think if you can just talk about the elephant in the room, if I were Kim Kardashian, I would straight up come out and say, yeah, these guys are paying me $17 million or whatever the number is to endorse this.
Yep.
With that said, I also have migraines every other day. All of a sudden it's like, that's good to know.
Yeah.
As opposed to, all right, whatever. Let's like, so I just think honesty in marketing and especially nowadays compared to 50 years ago is more important than ever. When we're speaking with prospective clients, we tell them straight up, like, I just want to let you know that this is going to be the hardest thing you ever do. So are you okay with that? And can you tell me why you have what it takes to win? Because the last thing I want to do, all I'm here to do is help you make the best decision for you. I want to make sure you're fully aware of this. Like, we good? Because the last thing you want to have happen is for people to come in with expectations up here. This is going to be easy. I'm getting results tomorrow. And then reality kicks in down here. And that's when people are really pissed. So you're better off just being brutally honest with people. I think, especially in a service-based business where your energy and time is going into it, where you almost have to play the exclusivity card to say, this might not be right for you.
Right.
You tell me. And I think people appreciate that, because the reality is, if you're selling a little widget, cool, no big deal. If you're selling something that's more expensive and requires your time, your resources, your bandwidth, you want to make sure you're working with the right people, that they're showing up and doing the work. You can't do their sit-ups for them. You can't eat for them. So they have to be, it's like a marriage. Like they have to be fully committed, just like you are.
Right. Because if something goes wrong, then we all go tappity, tappity, tappity on our keyboards, right? We're posting bad Yelp reviews. We're telling everybody on social media, and never does it get in there. Well, did you follow their instructions? Oh, no. It was just, they told me I would get X. I would lose 50 pounds in 2 weeks, or whatever it is. And I think that is one of the tricky things now, is because of social media. It gets a little bit scary to be doing some of these things. And I know, especially from a medical perspective, that is, because, back to HIPAA again, you could say, they had said this would happen, and they can't legally respond. And so that's where it's, it's just a little bit trickier. And so again, somebody wants to work with you because they know you understand that.
Yeah, we all want to feel special. That's what it comes down to, right? And if you speak someone's language, they'll feel more special than if you're trying to speak to everyone.
Right. One of the things I always ask my guests for things that they would like to discuss, and I love this, and so I need you to tell me more about it. The death of the hustle and grind culture.
Yeah. So there's really two ways of growing a business. Doesn't matter if it's online or brick and mortar. You have the free guerrilla marketing type of stuff where you're posting on social media, creating content, the content marketing side of things. And I built my first business like that. It took me 7 years to make my first $1 million. We built our blog to 1.4 million visitors per month. Took 10 years to do that. Built this, 296,000 subscribers on YouTube. Took 10 years to do that. That stuff 100% works. but it's slow as molasses.
Right. And
And it
many people give
requires,
up.
yeah, like you, again, it's just being real. It's like, cool, like you can do that. It's free, not really, but you think it's free, and it's going to take you a tremendous amount of time. Or you have paid traffic, which is I'm going to run ads to an offer. And that is the fastest way to grow and grow big. Because the challenge on social media, even on Google, is no one sees your stuff. Unless you have a big following that's massively engaged or your content is just next level, no one is seeing anything you post. So what that requires, going back to the organic side, is you have to spend more money on caliber of production, not necessarily like video setup, but really thinking about like the storyboarding and the camera, like all the nonsense that you can't just shoot straight to camera as simply as maybe you could before. It really needs to be well thought out. So it takes time, possibly money and videographers and graphics. And then on the paid side, the risk is, well, if you don't know how to pay for traffic, if you don't know how to pay for clients, i.e. spend $100 on Facebook to make 500 in return, then don't do that. Like, because you'll lose your shirt very quickly. But get the coaching or the mentorship that will help you do that, because you will, like, I'd say 80% of our clients come to us with no social following, not even a website, but they're very good at what they do. So they have a clinic or they've done some stuff online, but they have like 100 followers on Instagram. And we're like, great, who cares? Because none of that stuff matters. We're going to run ads, and hundreds of thousands of people or millions of people who never knew you existed anyways are going to see your stuff. And if they feel understood by you, they'll take the next step. So those are the two ways of building a business. So when we talk about the grind and hustle culture, I think there's just like this massive badge of honor for working 28 hours a day. And I think it's ridiculous, because there are smarter ways of building a business and there are less smart ways. It's not that one is good, one is bad. It's just one is more effective, one is faster, one is simpler than the other. Just like there are many paths up a mountain, one's safest, one is fastest, one is whatever. As long as you're aware of the choices and you make the right decision for yourself, that's all that matters. But if you are going to grind, my advice would be grind building systems and assets that will work for you forever, as opposed to creating something that disappears in 24 hours. So, yeah.
Yeah. And social has obviously changed how we market. But we've always had advertising. We've always had, you had to target. I get a kick out of, when I'm watching TV and a commercial will come on and I'm thinking, either I'm not the right target market for the program, or I'm not the right target market for the commercial. Somebody in there was a mismatch. And because we want to spend our money in the best way possible. And thinking again about, how many people are you wanting to serve? I was working with clients one time, hair salon, great place. Oh my God. They had, such fun, but they were in a fairly small area, but in a big metro area. I mean, it was, and so they knew that their audience really was pretty close. People weren't going to drive, 20, 30 miles to get their hair cut. But we came up with this great marketing campaign, and they wanted it to go to the world. And I mean, it really was a fun campaign. I won awards on it, all sorts of stuff. And I said, no, guys, because, because it was, there, part of it was, there was an offer, and call, make an appointment by X date or whatever. And I said, can you fulfill, what can you fulfill? If 100 people call, can you get 100 appointments scheduled? If 10 people call, all of those things. And that had never occurred to them. I mean, they were just, we want as many people to see this as possible.
Yeah.
And then I told them, okay, so you can do 10, but if you have 100 and you have to turn 90 away, you just made 90 enemies.
Yeah.
And, and so that's again, where it's important to know your niche, know how to reach them. If your clients or potential clients are not on Facebook, don't waste your money there. It's just, and the bad part about some agencies, or if you don't know, you're just like, okay, I'm going to spend my money. And those places will take your money. They're not going to, but it's the same thing. They Facebook wants you to continue advertising. So they're going to work with you. Same thing with LinkedIn, with all of those platforms. or if you're working with major media. I mean, they really do want you to keep coming back. So, they're going to work with you, but it's like we're saying, you need to know enough about it to know if it's, left, right, up, down, sideways, and then maybe trust that the experts are going to help you with it.
Yeah, 100%.
So, it's interesting because I think what we have seen happen with so many businesses is, and it doesn't matter if they're, what size they are, they start taking on a life of themselves. And they're so complex and so, so many things going on. And one of the things you talk to people about is, we need to simplify. So tell us a little bit more about that.
I think most people don't even understand their business model in the first place. So they can't articulate how they generate leads, how they convert them into customers or clients, and how they deliver on the back end. You should be able to draw that out on a napkin or on a one pager, because if you can't articulate that, then you don't have a simple business, right? My previous business was very complex. If you asked me what my business model was, it was, well, we do a bunch of this stuff and a bunch of this stuff and a bunch of this stuff and a bunch of this stuff. And we've got hundreds of things on the back end.
Lots of this stuffs.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. I'm it was just complexity on top of complexity. And that's why I wanted to get out of it, to be honest. So I think the thing to recognize is complexity fails and simplicity scales. You can't, I had a conversation this morning with a client who had just started working with us. And she was asking, I have 2 potential markets I can go after. I was like, cool, let's help you make a decision in 2 minutes. She's like, I can go to the consumer with this thing that's proven, or I can talk to other health. I can go to health pros with this thing that we've done with the consumers and show health pros how to do it with their clients. I was like, cool. I said, how many paying clients have you had on that one? And she's like, 2. I'm like, did they know you? She's like, yes. I'm like, kill that. It's an unproven concept. This one, you've had 10 years experience, hundreds of clients, lots of social proof. So with respect to simplifying, I told her, I'm like, if you choose both, you double the complexity in your business.
Right. Especially because they're different markets. I mean, they're very different.
Fundamentally different. I'm like, you have 2 different corporations almost, different messaging, different frustrations and pain points. And it's what people don't recognize is it's twice the amount of everything. It's twice the amount of emails, twice the amount of ads, twice the amount of social posts, different accounts, because it's fundamentally different people. And that's just one example of how we overcomplicate our lives. And I'm like, I tell my clients, don't do anything. You focus on one offer. So one core coaching program to one audience. You master one channel, one traffic source until you make $1 million. Don't do anything else until you do that. And then talk to me. And then when you make $1 million, I'll still tell you to still stay focused on that, because the market is still massive.
Right.
And I think it's one of the biggest mistakes for me. It's it's the tell for me for newbie entrepreneurs is if I go to their website and they have 10 different offers, 10 different courses and 3 coaching programs. And I'm like, okay, good luck with that. There's no way.
And you can be successful in little bits and pieces.
Yeah. It's they're scratching the surface across 10 things instead of drilling for oil in one spot. And I just think it's, I don't know. It's just, and then listen, to no fault of their own. They're just doing what they know how to do. But hopefully stuff like this, helps them see otherwise.
Right. And of course, so many people go after the flavor of the month. And whether it's a product, service, whatever, it's like, ooh, this is popular, so we're going to do this. I have clients who have said we absolutely positively have to advertise on TikTok. I don't have a TikTok account. I obviously know what it is, but and I said, why? Well, because it's big. Okay, what's the demographic of who uses it? Well, they didn't know, because they just knew it was big.
Yeah.
And so when I told them, okay, here's the average user age, they went, oh. I said, half the age of the people you're trying to reach, right? And they went, yeah. I said, so why would you waste your money going on TikTok? And more importantly, I'm kind of like you. I tell them I won't do it. If you want to do that, that's great, but you're going to do it without me. Because they would be unhappy. They take it out on me, and it's just better to not do that to start with.
Yeah, and most people just jump on the next thing. So there's like the fear of missing out. So they just jump on it without any context. And, it's, if you focus on one thing and do it extremely well, you could do direct mail, you could do newspaper ads, you could do the most archaic things. If you do it really well, you will still do infinitely better than most people just jumping from one thing to the next.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I always, one of the biggest target marketing campaigns that I always like showing as an example are the billboards for bail bondsmen right outside jails, right? They can see that, and they probably get their one phone call, so they're not able, and so they can see, oh, there's, Billy Bob's bail bonds right there. And Billy Bob doesn't need to do anything besides have that one billboard.
Let's think about it every day.
Yep. So, well, oh my gosh, Yuri, we are almost at the top of the hour. And this has been so much fun. I would love to chat further with you on this, because we just scratched the surface on so many of these topics. But we have been talking about what you can do, but we want people to really know how they can reach you. So tell us a little bit more about where to find you and what are the specific services that you provide.
Yeah, so it's really simple. If you're a health professional who wants to grow your coaching business online, if you want a more predictable way of getting clients and delivering better results to them on the back end without trading your time for money, that's who we work with. Yeah, probably the best place to connect with me would be on Instagram. That's probably where I'm most active. I'm at Healthpreneur. And honestly, if you just want to watch all my contents, just watch it on YouTube just to get a sense of like, this is kind of know what he's talking about. So I'm at Healthpreneur on YouTube. If you like that stuff, then you can find our links to other stuff. But those are probably the two best places.
Right. And what I love about your content is if somebody's not sure, if they're, thinking, I mean, you've got great resources in your content.
Thank you.
And so, and even if you're not in the health industry, I was looking at some of your videos and I thought, yeah, these pertain to everybody. So they were great.
Truth is truth, right? It just, whatever market you're in, there's certain principles that are true all the time. I just share whatever I can, lessons learned, common questions that come up. So yeah, if it serves you and you're a hairstylist, that's great.
Perfect. I love it. Well, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave us with?
I would say there's so many things, but I think just being an entrepreneur is one of the most rewarding journeys you can ever be on. It's 1,000,000% worth the up and down roller coaster, and be okay with just getting knocked down way more than you're going to win. And if you're okay with that, the wins will make up for all the knockdowns. But it's like anything great, raising kids or anything else. It takes time, it takes persistence. And I think that the name of the game in business is just staying in business for as long as possible. Because if you can stay in business for as long as possible, that means you're doing something right. And if you're doing something right, you'll stay in business for as long as possible. So just never give up.
I love it. Such great final words. I can't wait to chat with you again. But until then, I'm Deb Creer. I've been talking with Yuri Elkaim. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.